we get started with exercise, we always like to go through our exercise safety guidelines. If you've heard this a bunch of times before, feel free to start to get ready. But if you haven't, please at least listen once. So we ask that everyone's received clearance from their physician or therapist prior to starting an exercise program. Do not participate if that clearance has not been received. Do not participate if since your last contact with us, you have had any unusual symptoms, an unplanned doctor or hospital visit, any ankle or leg swelling, or a greater than 4-pound weight increase in 2 days or 5 pounds in 1 week. This is a virtual exercise class, so have an emergency plan in place as we are unable to physically assist you. If you develop symptoms during the session, stop exercising, and if they worsen, seek medical attention. In the event of an emergency, call 911. Remember, you are in control of your own workout. Lara will give you different options. Stick with the option that works best for you. Stay within your comfort level.
All right, so hopefully we're all ready. We're going to get into our warm-up. Always prepared with whatever you need, water, weights, whatever it is you're using today. The balance item or something for balance is always recommended. Let's just kind of get going and we'll talk through. Nice to see so many of you there. A lot of familiar faces and names. Let's roll these shoulders back. Some of you I saw yesterday, so it's so nice to see you 2 days in a row. And the other way. All right, let's do a little tap out in front. And change that to a bit of a toe tap. Excellent. All right, so for our hips here, we're just going to go a little bit wider with our stance here. And then back into the middle. And wider again. And back to the middle. And then one more time with a little bit wider stance. There we go. Let's actually move side to side now. So we have a choice here. We can actually just do a little bit of a tap from side to side. That's okay. Just get the hips going a bit more. Or we can actually add a bit more movement with arms. This being the warm-up, as long as we're staying in that RPE of 10, 11. We're not quite at the exercise portion here. Then either one will work. So today, I have a little mixed bag, actually, of how I want to approach this today. I'm going to start off with some unilateral work, doing one side at a time, right side then left. Then we'll do some other kind of reciprocal movements and back to the single side. So we'll see how it goes. You can let me know. I always appreciate the feedback later. Let's bend at the knee, bringing the heel towards the bottom. Excellent. All right, now coming back to our regular march, we just want to kind of finish off this warm-up, just getting those hips up a little bit higher. So get a little bit bigger march. It can be as big as you need it to be, understanding that as soon as we add that twist, we're getting a little bit more balance component here. We really want to kind of fire up the small muscles of our lower leg to start today. That's kind of how we're going to start, actually. So what I would recommend as we get started here is that wherever your balance item is, I'm going to start off with all of the work being done kind of with a single side. So let's go with our left side, maybe. Left side. So which means that what we're holding on to is on our right side. So the first thing we're doing, just to fire everything up, is we're going to do a single leg stand. So in this case, because we're going to work with our left leg, I want you to stand on the left leg, just raising your right foot just a touch. It doesn't have to be a huge, just off the ground. Your balance item is there just in case you want to touch down. If your foot touches down, that's okay. We're just firing up the small muscles of our ankles and all of the muscles in our hips that are stabilizing our leg. We'll stay here just for a little bit. Something you can extend on your own at home. And then we'll move into some different movements, small movements on the left side, and then we'll do them on the right. All right. Keeping it simple. So this next one, we have an option here. I want to do a single leg heel raise, so you will need your balance item to kind of do this. If you find it's too much, then it's okay. You can always go back to the double. So if you keep your foot slightly off the ground, holding on if you need to for balance, you probably will for this. We're just trying our best to do this heel raise on one leg, in this case our left. We're starting on our left side today. If you need to kind of have the other foot slightly touching the ground, that's actually okay, as long as we're doing sort of the push-up or the pushing up with one. That's the goal, okay? So nice and controlled, using our left calf is doing the work here. Should get warm pretty quick since we're doing our whole body weight with one leg. All right, really get our ankles and lower body will be really fired up after this, the first part of our session here today. Now we're going to switch it over to the toe tap on the same side. So left foot, tapping our toe as fast as we can. So we got the calf going. Now we're kind of getting the muscles in and of the shin warmed up as well. We warmed up a little bit of the hip. We're going to do one more kind of simple hip type exercise before we switch to the other side for this particular grouping of exercises. Getting us going here today. Tap, tap, tap. If you start to feel that burning in your shin and you're like, oh, I'm done with this, you're more than welcome to stop. That's a good indication that we've got the fatigue we want. You don't have to keep going. All right. One more movement, kind of keeping everything fired up for this left side before we move on to the right. We are going to do our hip car, which is so what I'd like you to do. We're standing on our right foot, is where we're stabilizing ourselves. Our moving leg will be our left leg, and we're going to think about bringing our leg up and around over top of something that's a bit high. So you can pretend there's a stool there beside you, and you're bringing your leg up, around, and over. It doesn't have to be big. So some of us will be able to make a bigger circle than others, and that's okay. The important part I want is that we keep our body facing forward, and we just try to keep everything steady. So we're trying to do all of the circling through our hip joint. So if it's not big, don't worry. It's something that can get better. Now, I started with a front circle. It doesn't really, if you started with the reverse circle, don't worry, because we are going to switch, okay? So whichever way you're going, as long as you can acknowledge which direction it is, we will now switch. So now I'm going back and around, okay? So switching it up, whether you're going forward or back, all we're doing is we're just trying to make this circle, bringing our kind of leg and knee and everything up and over our imaginary object, up and over, but keeping everything else steady and still so we can really isolate the muscles in and around the hip. Let's do 2 more circles, whichever direction you're working on. And then we're going to do those simple kind of exercises on the other side, and then we'll switch over to some upper body work for a little bit, okay? So I'm just switching myself over for my balance item. So now I'm going to be kind of standing up. We're going to do our single leg stance to start. So in this case, it will be our right leg now, because that's the one we're working. So standing on your right leg, lifting your left leg off the ground. If you need to hold on or tap or just a little touch your balance item here or there, that's okay. Really just want to wake up, fire up those small muscles in and around your ankle. You should feel them maybe, just engaging a little bit here, a little shake here or there. And then we're actually waking up that hip muscle as well, which we'll address again in a couple of exercises. This doesn't have to be a record-breaking single leg stand, but it's a good way to start. So the exercises we're going to do next are that heel raise, the toe tap, and then the hip car, and then we'll move on to some upper body work. All right, so for that heel raise, since we're trying to do it as a single leg movement, you can hold on for balance if you need, or just touch. Just, again, making sure that most of the work is being done by the right calf, okay? I can appreciate if you need that. If it's too tough, you can always still have that foot sort of touching the ground. We just want to make sure that we're doing most of the pushing on the single side. This is a great way when we do these single-sided movements to sort of see where our imbalances lie. Which side's stronger? Almost all of us have a side that's stronger than the other or weaker, depending on how you look at it. So this helps us to identify those areas that we could work on. So a couple more lifts like this before we move on to our toe tap. Excellent. Should burn pretty quick when we're doing the single leg. All right, let's switch to the toe tap. So it should be, if you're following my kind of direction here, it would be your right like doing the tap, but as long as it's different from the one we did before, that's all that matters. Tap, tap, tap. And we're just waiting to get that kind of warmth in the shin, the burning. And at some point, it might just be a little much, and that's okay. You can stop. And then we'll finish up this little block of work with our hip car. Couple more. I'm starting to feel like my toe's not moving, so I know that we're getting there, at least for me. Lots of burning. Okay, so for our hip car again, we're going to now be standing on that left leg, and our right leg is going to be doing the movement. We're just going up and around whatever imaginary item is there. We're trying to get our leg up and over, but we're keeping our kind of pelvis facing forward, everything, our torso facing forward, and we're doing the best we can with that range. Okay, so some of us will have more range. Some of us may have a side that's really tough. Okay, and this is something that we can really work on. It's a great way to work on hip mobility because we're getting strength and flexibility kind of at the same time, or range of motion. It's you kind of have to focus a little bit sometimes to kind of keep that steady circle. So depending on which direction you're going, I want you to switch. So for me, I'm starting back and going around now. But as long as you switch the direction of your circle, we are okay. We're going up and around. You may find one way is a little easier to get that circling movement. Up and around. So after we finish this block, which will be a couple more circles, we're going to grab hold of our weights or whatever we're going to use. Take a sip of water if you're interested. And we're going to do some upper body work with some weights. All right. Perfect. All right. Well, go ahead and grab what you need. We're going to start off some arms and shoulders here. Let's get, I'm finally warm enough. Our space is pretty cold here. All right. I got my weights. Starting off pretty simple. We're going to do our bicep curl, but we're going to do a reciprocal curl. I've done these before, so once you get going, that'll make sense to you if it doesn't already. Roll your shoulders back, glue your elbows in by your rib cage. We're going to start with an actual open palm bicep curl this time around. And reciprocal just means that we're kind of in opposite directions, but we're moving, we're constantly moving. So not so much alternating, but they're both hands are moving at the same time, but one's going up and one's going down. Sometimes I like to do this for, part of the reason is I like, as I said before, doing the single-sided movements, but also because if you really pay attention, you might notice that your core kind of has to really stabilize to keep everything, you know, steady. So it's just our arms working. Your core actually has to sort of stabilize when we're doing these movements. It's a nice bonus, okay? So we're going a little bit faster too. So working our muscle fibers maybe with a little bit of speed. So a little bit different type of work. All right, so we should kind of, I don't necessarily always count really well with this, but we're just trying to get that control up and down, get that burn in the arms. We're almost done here, don't worry. Let's do a couple more. Excellent. All right, next. So this one's going to be kind of alternating because it has to be in terms of its design. We're going to switch our grip now. So now our hands are facing each other. We're still starting off in good posture. So we're rolling everything back, making sure we're in good posture. We're going to do kind of a front raise, but with that hammer grip, but across the body. So as we cross the body, the end point ends up being sort of straight out from your opposite shoulder. So my right hand will kind of be almost in line with my left shoulder straight out. So that way we get shoulder, but we're also getting some work with our chest when we do it this way. And as always, we have to stabilize our core to maintain that kind of forward like direction of our torso. And also as we lift the weight away from our body, you should also feel your core engaged to keep everything stable. So always a bonus. My core work is so important because everything requires a bit of core stability. Excellent. So a couple more here. I'm not sure if you can hear that noise. If you can, I'm sorry. Still lots of construction going on here. All right, two more. So one on each side. Excellent. Now, for those of you that are lucky enough to have heavier weights, you're more than likely, I would say grab them for the next two exercises. If you don't, that's fine. I'm going to grab a slightly heavier weight for this next series of exercises. We are going to do our bent over row, but we're going to do that reciprocal row again. So when we get into that position, whether you're sitting or standing, the most important thing is we keep our back and core engaged. So we don't want to be slumping, whether we're in the chair or sitting. We want a nice strong core so we can be tipped at the hip with a strong core, good comfortable stance, and our row becomes an alternating row. Okay, so I'm not sure which way is a better way to see it. Okay, there's a couple of things to look at here. Just like before, we're not twisting our body as we do this reciprocal movement. We're keeping everything steady, which is part of the challenge when we do this, okay? You don't have to go as fast as I'm going per se, but we kind of want to keep the movement going. Think about that row back and the work in the shoulder blade. So it's still keeping the posture, still have that squeeze. It's stabilizing through our obliques and our core as we are reciprocally moving. All right, 2 more. Excellent. It's fast to get those reps in that way too. So now with 1 weight each hand, we're going to do our side bend, but we're actually going to go, sometimes we do one side at a time. In this case, we're actually going to go side to side. If you're, again, lucky enough to have that heavier weight, this will work a little bit better. But if you don't, something to think about on your own is doubling up a weight, maybe then doing it on a single side. Excellent. So really trying to minimize any forward movement here. Just side to side. Your arms just stay dangled at your side with the weight. Keeping your feet on the ground. Excellent. And since we are moving so quickly through some of those reciprocal movements, we're already back to some work on our lower body. We're going back to some unilateral lower body work. Okay, these next couple exercises for our lower body are going to be a little bit tough, okay? So we can adjust as needed. In terms of your weights, because they're tougher, you can use lighter weights, okay? I would say if you have experience with these exercises, you can use heavier weights because it's our lower body that's strong. But maybe you decide as we work through the movement. So because we're doing single-sided here, the first side we want to work on, as we did before, was our left side, since we did it the first time. So grab whatever weights you're going to try or have your options nearby. All right, so what I want you to do, I'm going to show you in a couple positions here so you can see. I want you to get into a position where your left foot is slightly in front of your right, okay? So we see this here, my left foot is a little bit in front of my right. My back foot, my right foot is bent a little bit. See this little bend here? I call this a kickstand. That's your kickstand. Your front leg is not fully straight, but it's mostly straight. And the first thing I want you to do with your weights near your body is stick your bottom out, and allow those weights to drag down your leg to about your knee, maybe a little bit below, and then stand up. But keep that kickstand. All right? Keep your kickstand in, stick your bottom out. Allow your weights to slide down to maybe your shin below your knee, and push back up. So what you should feel for when we stick our bottom out and allow the weights to drag down is you should feel stretch in the hamstring. So that's the upper back part of your left leg. So when we feel that stretch right here, I can feel the stretch. I stand back up. I come back down. I feel that stretch. As soon as I feel that stretch, I can come back up, okay? If you notice anything in your lower back, just make sure your weights are really close to your body. Mine are touching my leg as I go down. They're so close. So close to my body, touching as I go down. Nice and controlled, okay? All right. It's kind of a complicated one, but when you get it, and you know. Okay, let's do one more like this. All right. So the next thing I want you to do, if you're so inclined, is keep this left foot forward. I'm going to do this one without the weights. You're allowed to use weights, but I'm going to do it out for balance reasons. Left foot stays forward. We will do a split squat. Looks kind of like a lunge, right? So we want to find that good position where our feet are maybe hip width apart, but staggered forward to back. and we're coming up and down. So you can, if you're comfortable with this movement, you could be holding weights. If you're not totally sure, hold on for some balance. It is okay. We want to ask me how to do it with a band. This one or you can actually do that kickstand deadlift with a band. At the end, I might be able to show you, or like I'll find a way to teach it because it actually can be done with a band. The instructions are a little different, but it actually can be done. So maybe I'll have a sec to do it and teach you in a sec, okay? It's a very good question. For the lunge, we don't even really need weight sometimes. It's such a challenging exercise. So your torso is pretty straight or slightly bent forward, okay, when we do this. That would be the movement. So slightly bent forward or kind of straight. It'll adjust if you feel more in your thigh or in the glutes of your bottom, right? That's what will adjust. That's really good. Those two exercises are quite tough, so I'm very impressed. Let's do the 2 leg ones on the other side, and then we'll do some other exercises, okay? So a few more minutes so we can squeeze more in. So back with the deadlift. Actually, maybe I can show the band deadlift while you're doing the weight one. So now for the right side. So for the kickstand movement, I want your right foot forward now, okay? The back leg is slightly bent. That's the position we started with. So if you're using a band, that band goes onto that front leg, and you're really pulling tight. So you're actually, before you get started for that, you're grabbing really low, and then the idea of the movement is still the same. So you get that, except we're going to start low for this one instead of the weight going down, and then you still kind of stand up, and then now that we're in this position, we stick our bottom out until we feel that sort of stretch in the back of our hamstring and push up. Okay, the movement is basically still the same. You just need a really tight grab on that band. So you should, when you feel that stretch in the hamstring is up, you'll get that resistance on the way up with the band. Okay? Excellent. So sliding down, you always have to lead with that hip though. So you really got to stick that bottom out. Otherwise, it just changes where things are happening. Your back might not like it as much, okay? Feel that stretch. And stand. Well done. So if it's your weights, you're just allowing those weights to slide down your leg to about your knee, which is similar to where my hand is going from my band, and back up. All right, one more. Well done. Once you get this exercise, it's a fantastic exercise. Really good for the posterior chain of your body, but it is tough. So for the lunge split squat, now we're going to have our right leg as the front leg, okay? So if you want to hold on, use weights, whichever you like, get that stance that you're comfortable with, all right? And we're lowering down. So we don't want our knee to crash to the ground. No one wants that. Your torso position is either kind of straight up or maybe slightly tipped forward. Those would be, so if you were to see it this way, it could be kind of upright, but that can be tough. If you go a bit more forward, you'll get a little more, you'll feel a little more there in that glute, okay? Either one is okay. We just don't want to be fully bent over, okay? Because that just won't be comfortable for other parts of our body. And again, you could hold weights. It's all about experience with this one. Your lower body can handle a lot of weight. It's just we want to make sure your balance is also okay with it. All right? Excellent. All righty. Perfect. So let's do a core movement. We don't really need weight for this one necessarily. We're going to do a bicycle curl, so this bicycle crunch, sorry, and all opposite sides. So you can pick whichever side you want to start with. It doesn't really matter at this point. I'm starting with my left hand at my left temple, which means that my goal will be to bring that elbow towards the outside of my right leg. It doesn't have to touch. You do not actually have to accomplish that specifically. We just want to do a slow, controlled twist. So unlike in our warm-up, when we sort of do a similar movement, this is slow and intentional. We should feel that crunching movement. Squeeze in the muscles here. All right, I got a couple minutes here. Let's see what we can get done. I have a couple ideas. Perfect. Let's do the other side. Okay, so that would be, in my case, right hand, right temple, right elbow going towards the outside of the left. Slow. I don't have my balance item here, so if I fall over, that's why. I'll try my best not to. My balance is decent, but we'll see. Excellent. Couple more. Really feel that kind of twist and crunch. Really in our obliques here. 2 more. All right, you're lucky. I'm only doing 1 more grouping of exercises now due to time. I had a couple ideas, but we did lots of different heavy work today in the lower body. We're going to do some tricep work because we didn't do it yet, okay? So for our tricep, we're actually just going to keep it simple and timing-wise. We are going to do the kickback at the same time just because I want to make sure we have enough time. So let's get into our comfortable position. Let's roll our shoulders back. Our starting position for our kickback is actually already in that row. So if you think about that row with the weight already at your hip bones and your elbows up, that is starting position. So this is movement 1 is out, right? Straighten and then back in, okay? So we're just going out and then you're back to base, which is right by your hip bone, okay? Try to hold it for a sec to make sure you can feel that contraction and then back. So this one's breaking away from my theme, but I want to make sure we get a good work on our triceps. So what I'll do instead is after we do a couple more of these, we'll do a different tricep exercise to finish as a tricep burner, okay? And then we'll be done. Right, 1 more kick back, hold, and back. So now we're just going to do that pulse. So I know we've done this one before. So for this one, I actually have my palms up. So if I'm standing in normal position, my palms will be kind of facing behind me. My knuckles are forward, roll my shoulders back. I still like to be in this position. I find it helps. And then with a straight arm, I'm just pulsing. Pulsing. This one I find burns quickly. So sometimes I pulse, oh, take a little break. And then I come back and I pulse and pulse and pulse and pulse. If you find it tough, it's okay to take the break, okay? Pulse. Really but keep your arms close to your body. I think that's the key if you're struggling to get the feel. All right, I'm going to do 1 more grouping of pulsing, and then we're about that time to switch it over, okay? Pulse, pulse, pulse. Well done, everybody. Thank you for indulging me in some of those challenging exercises. It seems like you did a pretty good job. So if you're not already convinced, which I feel like you are since you're here pretty much every week, Nikki's going to talk to you about how important it is to exercise and to keep exercising and to keep up the good work. So if you haven't already heard the talk, or if you would like to hear a whole new spin on it, please stick around and join Nikki for the rest of the talk. And I'm sure I'll see you again later this week or next week or on other events. Nice to see you as always.